All right, welcome back to Automate Live. My name's Chris Luecke, host of Manufacturing Happy Hour, and I'm joined by one of my favorite people in the industry to interview on a regular basis, Melonee Wise of Agility Robotics. How are you doing?
Oh, happy to be here.
Excellent to have you here. What a great way as we get towards the end of our interviews for day 2 of Automate Live. And as we get started, you have a nice demo at your booth that I think is fairly easy to walk through verbally. So give us the lay of the land. I believe it's an example of line side delivery, or what you could be using to deliver or feeding of car parts. Is that correct? Maybe go into more detail.
Yeah, so we are showing off in our booth, kind of an end-to-end demo that's a little contrived because we're loading bins on one end and then we're immediately taking it off the other end.
You can't, the conveyor only has so much space that it can...
Yeah, but we're trying to highlight line side delivery or line side replenishment activity. So on one end, Digit, our humanoid robot, meets an AMR and unloads the parts from that AMR and puts it onto a flow rack. And then Digit communicates to the cloud to talk to the AMR's cloud system and says, please go to the next location. And then Digit walks to the next location and meets the AMR at the other side and then reloads the AMR. And then you repeat the whole process over again. And this is meant to really highlight a lot of the work that we're doing with manufacturing customers, where we're using a combination of automation technologies, the AMR and Digit, to basically do these kind of joint automation tasks. And then the other thing that we're showing in the booth is some of the new functionality of the V4 platform. So this is our next generation robot that has all of the safety functionality that makes it capable for being deployed in OSHA environments, and automated charge docking. So the robot will charge itself and switch off with the other robot after it's ready to charge. And that's a big step forward for us in terms of functionality. And then obviously some other nice things that we upgraded, the payload, the runtime, etc. So our customers are really excited and we're really excited to show it off.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice, straightforward demo. Like you just highlighted, there's the AMR integration, there's the Tote handling, as well as some of the new functionality like autonomous charging.
Yeah.
You know, as we get further into this conversation, tell us a bit more about the integration your humanoid Digit is doing with AMRs, in general. I believe you've created some partnerships in this space. Maybe go into some of the details there.
Yeah, so at a high level, in addition to Digit, we have our entire cloud solution, Agility Arc, that pairs with Digit for doing tasking and integration with third-party systems. So over the last couple of months, we've rolled out integration with 3 primary partners. What used to be called 6 River Systems is now Ocado, Mir, and Zebra Technologies, which used to be Fetch Robotics, for doing AMR integration, being able to trigger workflows between those systems and have Digit work seamlessly with them. And in addition to that, we've also been with our ARC platform connecting out to other types of automation. So we can connect out to conveyor and things like that. So for triggering any kind of conveyance or other types of traditional automation systems.
One area that I always have a lot of respect for the work you do and that Agility Robotics does is your focus on not necessarily the low-hanging fruit, but maybe the low-hanging fruit's the right word, but the pragmatic applications in humanoid robotics. So you have your demo. What are some of the other use cases, maybe 1 or 2 others that you think are worth highlighting to give a real down-to-earth approach of where the current capabilities are?
Yeah, for sure. So when you look at solving automation for like all of logistics and manufacturing, it's a pretty large surface area. And so at Agility, we purposefully started with doing bulk material handling because a lot of people do it, whether it's auto manufacturers or logistics operators for fulfillment. And it's a relatively structured problem that we can be very successful with in terms of high reliability, good uptime, and fast return on investment. We can do harder problems, but we chose to start with this set of problems because it gives us a nice beachhead. And what that means for us is if you've got a tote, we plan on moving it, and we can move it from shelf to shelf, shelf to flow rack to conveyor, conveyor to shelf, conveyor to AMR, AMR to any of those things, and palletizing and depalletizing and stacking and destacking. You know, if you have to do some kind of material movement task with a tote or a container, we want to have all of the general capabilities, because that's kind of the exciting potential of humanoids is we're a general an automation platform with a whole bunch of general capabilities. We want to be able to do all of those things. We want to do it with high reliability and give a fast return on investment to our customers.
Yeah. I love that I love the deliberate focus. I like that you answered that with the core use case as well as why you're taking the approach to that use case. And, would another way of describing it be you want to nail these general capabilities so it makes a great first impression. It nails the basics first, and then you can get into maybe more complex things from there.
For sure. And also it's like a building block, right? If you're good at doing simple things, it's not like you're not going to have to do those simple things sometimes as you do more complex things.
Yeah.
And so we view it as stair stepping into new capabilities. If we can palletize totes, we're halfway there to palletizing boxes, and then we're another quarter of the way to doing even more complex tasks.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really about, taking a tiered approach on the complexity problem. Because one of the things that I found in my last company was the hard part is not actually doing robotics. It's providing a solution that solves a customer problem.
Yeah.
And there's more to providing an automation solution than just having a robot that can do a task. It has to connect to other automation systems. You have to be able to configure and manage it and deploy it. For example, we can deploy our automation in less than a week.
Yeah.
And that's not a trivial task in itself.
I'm glad that you brought up your last focus on fetch, because you're kind of, not to say you're doing the same thing again, but you learned some of the best practices to approaching a new area of robotics like humanoids when you were doing this a decade ago, approaching what was back then AMRs, a new area of robotics as well. You can answer this question either way you want. I was going to ask, maybe what's one of the next type of applications you see for humanoids, or what's something you learned from the way things progressed with AMRs that might give some visibility into how you might see things progressing in humanoids?
Yeah. So I would say that one of the things that you eventually suffer from in any automation technology that you make is you suffer from your own success. So one of the things that I think will eventually happen in the humanoid market, the way it happened in the AMR market, is a lot of people think that it's suddenly going to go from logistics, manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, elder care, we're going to immediately solve logistics and then move to all of these other markets. And I think what's actually going to happen is we're going to start solving problems in logistics and manufacturing, and we're going to get focused there for a long time, because that's what happened with AMRs. A lot of people were saying, oh, AMRs are useful in all of these other areas like service robotics, but it took a long time for you to see companies branching out into these parallel markets and parallel paths. And that's just being a victim of your own success and customers wanting more robotic solutions in that area.
Yeah. No, I could easily see that scenario playing out in a similar way that it did for AMRs.
Yeah.
With this last part of the conversation, I want to ask you about safety. This is something you and I have talked about in the past, and quite frankly, with any industrial application, one of the most important things to discuss. And I've always appreciated your focus on, yes, we want to drive AMRs forward, we want to drive humanoids forward, but we need to make sure we do it safely. And this will be I'll ask this manufacturing happy hour style and the describe it to me over a drink approach. There is a new safety standard out, ISO AWI 25785-1. Is that correct?
Yes.
How do you describe that over a drink? What does that do beyond the number that I just spewed out at you?
So this is a year in the making, and it's technically the beginning of the development of that standard. So first, we spent the last year proposing the standard and getting alignment that we should make this standard for humanoid robots, or technically dynamically stable industrial mobile robots.
Yep.
And basically what this does is it helps provide requirements and guidance for manufacturers. The -1 is for manufacturers, for how to make industrial mobile robots that use active control for stability to make them safe.
Yep.
And so over the next 3 years, we're going to be writing and developing that standard. And we're excited because, one, it's going to provide more safety uniformity for the industry, but two, it will be the first part of providing some basis for end users to understand what safety should look like from manufacturers. And I think that, the other exciting thing is the humanoid industry is a lot less mature than the AMR industry was when we started working on the safety standard ANSI 1508.
Okay.
And so it's kind of nice that we're getting a head start on creating the standard.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to, it was a little after the fact.
You're playing catch up with AMRs. Now it's a more proactive approach around humanoids, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be good because right now there's a lot of miseducation in the market around safety, especially with humanoids. And there's a lot of customers that don't understand how unsafe the technology is and the risk that it could pose to workers. For example, if you went and looked at all of the humanoids out there in the market today, very few of them have emergency stops. However, all industrial equipment pretty much requires an
100%.
An emergency stop. And if you walk around Automate, every piece of an industrial equipment here, you're going to find a big red button. And it should be concerning and telling that if you go and you look at a lineup of humanoids and you look at their backs or their fronts, you don't see a lot of big red buttons. And that, I think, should indicate to people the maturity of the market and how much further we have to go before we're truly ready to commercialize this technology. Because if you don't even have that, it's not clear, like, how it's going to even work in a work cell, much less in a cooperative application.
Well, I appreciate that you take these things into consideration and bring them up regularly in conversations. And as a leader in this space, hold yourself accountable for making them safe. And actually, I think that's one of the things that makes this last question something that you are one of the first to market to accomplish, because, not everyone out here, I'm sure, knows this, but humanoids need to stay within their cell right now.
Yes.
They're not interacting in the free world, despite what we see in hype videos online. But you have been developing a humanoid that's cooperatively safe. You're making Digit cooperatively safe. Tell us what that means, because this is a pretty cool next step.
Yeah, this is an exciting next step. So we plan by the end of 2026 to have a cooperatively safe robot out there in the world. That means that Digit can walk freely around a facility and be near humans while doing its job. It won't be able to handle the same work piece at the same time, because that's the definition of collaborative. So cooperative means you can be in the same environment, but you can't touch the same work piece at the same time. But this is a pretty exciting moment, because I think when you look at AMRs, like, they came out into the market already cooperatively safe, and in some cases collaboratively safe. But, we don't get that for free with humanoids. And so the companies that are the first to do this are really going to have a big edge and provide a lot more value for their customers, because the promise of humanoids is general capability,
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that promise comes around from being able to go from task to task to task.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in a work cell, it's really hard to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. I'm always excited to learn where the humanoid industry, we'll call it, is going from our conversations. Thank you for the very thorough update on everything from safety to functionality to what you're showing here at Automate. With that, we got to wrap up. We will be back for more Automate Live very soon. Thanks so much, Melonee.
Thank you.